Stretching across multiple states in North America, the Great Lakes are a place where you can travel for hours along the shoreline and see nothing but vast waters and endless skies meeting at the horizon. This is a massive lake system where clear blue waters, long sandy shores, and lakeside forests create scenery that is both majestic and peaceful. Here, winter covers the lakes with ice, while summer brings rolling waves and strong winds, illustrating nature's powerful vitality and constant transformation. Rocky islands, underwater rock reefs, and lakeside woodlands form a diverse ecosystem where fish, water birds, and aquatic creatures have lived in harmony for centuries. In today's video, let us explore the Great Lakes, where water, rocky islands, and lakeside forests come together to create a majestic and vibrant natural experience. Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore is located in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, United States, and is one of the most remarkable lakeside geological wonders in North America. This national lakeshore stretches for 41.6 miles along the southern shore of the magnificent Lake Superior. The sandstone cliff system here rises steeply from 49 feet to more than 197 feet above the water. Unlike ordinary sandstone formations, the cliffs here display a vibrant collection of colors ranging from red and orange to blue and brown. This phenomenon is formed by groundwater rich in iron, manganese, and copper minerals, continuously seeping through geological cracks over thousands of years. At the base of the cliffs, the waters of Lake Superior are so clear that ancient underwater rock formations can be seen deep below the surface. Despite the extremely harsh weather conditions of the lakeshore region, this place still maintains an incredibly rich and diverse ecosystem. The dense forests above the cliffs provide safe shelter for black bears, moose, and rare migratory falcon populations. Especially century-old white pine trees still cling deeply to the steep cliffs to survive against the powerful winds from the lake. The combination of ancient sandstone geology, colorful mineral bands, and dense lakeshore forest ecosystems has transformed this place into an invaluable natural reserve. The brilliant cliffs and icy waters of Lake Superior stand as proof of nature's enduring shaping power. This is a unique landscape representing the raw and harsh beauty of the Great Lakes region. A labyrinth of islands formed by 30,000 small islands is known as Georgian Bay Islands National Park. This wilderness park stretches along the eastern coastline of Georgian Bay in the province of Ontario, Canada. Because of its location directly upon a unique geological boundary, the park possesses one of the most complex landscapes and soil structures among all national parks. The terrain preserves deep geological scars left behind by the retreat of the enormous Laurentide ice sheet, approximately 11,000 years ago. The immense weight and movement of the ice polished the granite bedrock, creating countless depressions and channels later filled with fresh water. This process unintentionally left behind tens of thousands of rugged islands, forming the largest freshwater archipelago in the world. The wilderness forests here provide one of the last refuges for the five-lined skink, the only reptile species native to Ontario currently facing the threat of extinction. Vegetation also includes ancient reindeer mosses tightly attached to barren exposed rock surfaces. Large populations of aquatic birds, including common loons, regularly choose the island shores as nesting grounds. Because the islands remain isolated and completely disconnected by roads, transportation throughout the region depends entirely on specialized water taxi systems. During autumn, after tourist activity fades, the islands return to the silent, untouched atmosphere that existed before colonial settlement. The sound of waves striking the ancient rocky reefs becomes the only noise breaking the wilderness silence. Massive limestone pillars shaped like enormous flower pots are the unmistakable symbol of Flowerpot Island. This untouched island lies offshore from the Bruce Peninsula within Fathom 5 National Marine Park in the province of Ontario, Canada. Its isolated position amid the crystal-clear waters of Lake Huron makes it one of the most extraordinary geological destinations in North America. The spectacular structure of the two limestone pillars, rising dozens of feet above the shoreline, is the result of millions of years of freezing, thawing, and relentless erosion caused by violent lake waves. While softer rock layers beneath were gradually carved away by the water, the harder upper rock remained standing, creating the unusual widened tops. A third smaller pillar completely collapsed in 1903. Covering the island is a dense, untouched forest ecosystem with ancient cedar trees growing among rocky ground. This protected environment supports wildlife such as Lake Erie water snakes, eastern cottontail rabbits, and hundreds of migratory bird species stopping throughout the year. The island's moist conditions also allow rare moss species to flourish. Cool moisture rising continuously from Lake Huron regulates the island's climate, creating fresh air even during hot summer months. Visitors wishing to view the limestone pillars up close should consider glass-bottom boat tours departing from Tobermory, which also provide views of ancient shipwrecks resting beneath the lake's remarkably clear waters. Sleeping Giant Provincial Park is located on the Sibley Peninsula along Lake Superior in Ontario, Canada. The park is famous for its massive cliff range forming the shape of a giant lying beside the vast lake. This area features rugged terrain, steep rocky shores, and a pristine northern ecosystem, making it one of the most remarkable natural landmarks in the Great Lakes region. The geology of Sleeping Giant was formed from ancient volcanic and sedimentary rock layers that have existed for billions of years. Towering cliffs rising hundreds of feet above Lake Superior plunge directly into the water, creating rocky headlands, canyons, and vast stone plateaus stretching along the lakeshore. Some waterfront areas also contain basalt columns and caves eroded by waves and cold winds from Lake Superior. Covering the park are forests of white pine, fir, and birch, spreading across the rugged landscape. This is the habitat of moose, black bears, gray wolves, and many large birds of prey from northern Canada. Along the lakeshores and inland wetlands, beavers and river otters live within ecosystems that remain almost untouched by modern urbanization. Sleeping Giant Provincial Park is also connected to the Ojibwe indigenous legend about a giant spirit protecting the resources of Lake Superior. The combination of ancient rocky terrain, northern forests, and vast waters creates a uniquely wild beauty here. Today, the park is considered one of the most impressive and pristine natural reserves in Canada. Apostle Island's National Lakeshore is located at the northern edge of Wisconsin, United States, and is a breathtaking national landmark in the Great Lakes region. This natural heritage complex includes 21 pristine islands combined with a mainland shoreline stretching 11.8 miles along the southern shore of Lake Superior. The protected area covers more than 108 square miles of icy water environments. The most distinctive feature here is a captivating water maze formed by sandstone sea caves. The fierce winds and waves from Lake Superior have continuously carved and sculpted the ancient sandstone over centuries. This natural erosion process created curved stone arches, exposed pillars, and magnificent underground tunnel systems cutting deeply into the island shoreline. The island ecosystems developed in isolation, carrying the characteristics of northern boreal forests with dense, cold-resistant vegetation. Ancient pine and birch canopies provide nesting grounds for sea eagles, while also sustaining a dense black bear population. Beneath the cold waters, sandstone reef structures provide ideal spawning and shelter areas for native lake trout. This place also possesses the largest collection of historic lighthouses within the United States National Park System, standing tall among steep cliffs to guide navigation through blizzard seasons. The harmony between the ancient navigation structures, majestic rock caves, and untouched archipelago creates a truly unique geographical signature. This is a vivid testament to the harsh geological evolution of the Upper Michigan region. Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park is located along Lake Superior in the state of Michigan, United States, covering more than 92.7 square miles of untouched wilderness forest. It is one of the largest natural reserves in the Great Lakes region, famous for its low mountain terrain, deep lakes, and ancient forests that have never experienced large-scale logging for centuries. The landscape of the Porcupine Mountains was formed from ancient rock layers of the Canadian Shield, creating low mountain ranges stretching along Lake Superior. The park contains more than 62 miles of forest trails along with many large waterfalls flowing through deep rocky ravines. Lake of the Clouds, the most famous lake in the area, lies between rocky mountain slopes covered by dense northern forests. The old-growth forests here contain many maple trees, firs, white pines, and hemlocks that are hundreds of years old. Some ancient pine trees standing more than 131 feet tall still survive within the wilderness mountains that remain almost untouched by modern urbanization. Black bears, gray wolves, moose, and bald eagles inhabit the vast ecosystem stretching from the mountains down to the lakeside wetlands. Unlike many other natural parks around the Great Lakes, the Porcupine Mountains stand out because of their vast old-growth forests and isolated northern terrain. The ancient Rocky Mountain ranges, deep lakes, and rich wildlife have created a distinctive wilderness landscape here. Today, the park is considered one of the most important pristine natural regions in the Lake Superior area. Located amid the icy waters of Lake Superior, Isle Royale National Park is a wild archipelago belonging to the state of Michigan, United States. The park consists of hundreds of small islands stretching across the vast lake like an inland sea. Ancient rocky shores, dense conifer forests, and crystal-clear waters have created one of the most isolated and pristine ecosystems in North America. Most of Isle Royale is covered by pine, fir, and birch forests growing on ancient volcanic rock formed billions of years ago. Every autumn, the entire island transforms into shades of red, orange, and yellow, reflected across the calm lake surface. Thick fog frequently appears during early mornings, giving the landscape a cold and mysterious beauty. Isle Royale is famous for its unique wildlife, especially the isolated populations of gray wolves and moose living across the islands. For many decades, this place has become a renowned natural research site for studying the ecological balance between predators and prey. Along inland lakes and wetlands, beavers, red foxes, and many migratory bird species inhabit the quiet, ancient forests. Surrounding the park are the deep and frigid waters of Lake Superior, where massive storms often generate violent waves, similar to those of the open ocean. These harsh, natural conditions and prolonged isolation have allowed Isle Royale to preserve its rare wilderness character. Today, it is considered one of the most original and important wilderness regions in the United States. Tahquamenon Falls is located within the wild forests of the Upper Peninsula in the state of Michigan, United States. It is one of the largest and most famous waterfall systems in the Great Lakes region, formed along the Tahquamenon River flowing through vast northern forests. This area is notable for its distinctive amber-brown water and its nearly untouched freshwater ecosystem. Tahquamenon Falls consists of two main sections known as Upper Falls and Lower Falls, surrounded by ancient rock formations and dense conifer forests. Upper Falls stretches more than 197 feet wide with an enormous volume of water constantly plunging downward, creating thick clouds of mist. Meanwhile, Lower Falls extends across several smaller cascades weaving between rocky islands and swirling waters in the lower Tahquamenon River. The unique watercolor of Tahquamenon Falls is created by organic tannins released from cedar forests, pine trees, and surrounding wetlands. This natural phenomenon gives the river a dark brown color similar to tea or dark beer. Surrounding the waterfalls is the habitat of moose, black bears, bald eagles, and many cold water fish species living within the river and lake systems of northern Michigan. Tahquamenon Falls is also considered one of the most important natural symbols of the state of Michigan. The combination of massive waterfalls, northern forests, and wild freshwater ecosystems has created a landscape rarely seen in North America. Today, this area is protected as an important part of the Great Lakes ecosystem and attracts nature lovers from around the world. Kakabeka Falls plunges from towering cliffs within the wild forests of Western Ontario, Canada, along the Kaministiquia River flowing toward Lake Superior. Massive volumes of water surge over the rock edge before crashing violently into the deep gorge below, creating one of the most powerful waterfalls in the northern Great Lakes region. The sound of the falls can echo far across the ancient rocky forests surrounding the area. Beneath Kakabeka Falls lie sedimentary rock layers formed more than 1 billion years ago, containing well-preserved fossils of ancient marine life. Over millions of years, the flowing water continuously carved into the softer rock, creating canyons, fissures, and steep cliffs along the Kaministiquia River. This intense erosion process shaped the entire rugged landscape surrounding the waterfall. Unlike many other vast natural parks, Kakabeka stands out because of the contrast between the violent rushing waters and the quiet boreal forests surrounding it. White pines, firs, and birches grow densely across the cold, damp, rocky slopes beside the river. This area is also home to beavers, black bears, and many large birds of prey often seen along the high cliffs above the falls. Kakabeka Falls has long become an important natural symbol of Ontario because of its ancient terrain and exceptionally powerful waters. The fossil-bearing rock layers, deep gorges, and violent waterfall give this place a dramatic beauty, distinct from many other landmarks around Lake Superior. Today, Kakabeka Falls is still considered one of the most impressive landscapes in northern Canada. Ouimet Canyon is located near Thunder Bay in the province of Ontario, Canada, within the ancient Rocky Plateau, north of Lake Superior. This canyon stretches for about 1.2 miles, spans more than 328 feet in width, and features sheer cliffs rising up to 492 feet high. Unlike many other canyons formed by large rivers, Ouimet Canyon was created when ancient rock layers fractured after the last ice age in North America. The canyon walls are mainly composed of diabase rock more than 1 billion years old, forming massive dark stone walls surrounding the deep chasm below. The canyon floor maintains unusually cold temperatures because cool air becomes trapped between the towering cliffs. These conditions created a unique microclimate where many subarctic plant species left over from the Ice Age continue to survive today. Surrounding Ouimet Canyon is a boreal forest ecosystem with white pines, firs, birches, and thick layers of moss growing across cold, damp rock surfaces. Deep within the canyon, Rare lichens and cold-resistant plants grow between gigantic boulders shaded throughout the year. Falcons, bald eagles, and many birds of prey frequently appear along the canyon rim because of the strong air currents formed between the steep cliffs. Ouimet Canyon is considered one of the most unique geological and ecological phenomena in northern Ontario. The ancient gorge, cold microclimate, and Ice Age plant species have given this place a remarkably rare natural value within Canada. Amid the cold waters of Lake Superior, vast like an inland sea, Grand Island National Recreation Area rises with towering sandstone cliffs, dark conifer forests, and rocky shores almost untouched by urban development. The island lies off the coast of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where massive waves and cold winds from Lake Superior have continuously eroded the rocky shoreline for thousands of years. Along the island's northern side, steep cliffs rising dozens of feet plunge directly into the deep, frigid waters below. Numerous caves, natural overhangs, and large fissures formed through the long-term effects of glaciers, and Lake Superior's powerful waves. Some rocky beaches stretch for hundreds of feet, covered with smooth, rounded stones shaped by the constant impact of strong waves surrounding the island. Inside the island are dense forests of white pines, firs, maples, and birches growing across thin rocky soil. Bald eagles frequently appear around the high lakeside cliffs, while white-tailed deer move through forests that remain almost untouched by roads. The cold, oxygen-rich waters of Lake Superior surrounding the island also provide suitable habitats for many freshwater fish species. Grand Island National Recreation Area is not famous for its vast size, but for its isolated atmosphere within the harsh environment of Lake Superior. The cold, rocky shores, lakeside forests, and seemingly endless deep waters give the island a distinctive wilderness character unique to the northern Great Lakes region. Today, this area remains one of the most characteristic natural landscapes in Michigan. Black Rocks at Presque Isle Park, located in the city of Marquette in the state of Michigan, is one of the most famous lakeside landscapes in America's Upper Peninsula region. These ancient volcanic rocks, approximately 1.7 billion years old, rise from 20 to 30 feet above the icy shores of Lake Superior. Powerful waves and strong winds from the vast lake give this place its uniquely dramatic appearance. The black rock formations here are primarily composed of ancient basalt connected to the geological foundation surrounding Lake Superior. Over millions of years, large waves and freezing conditions eroded the rock surfaces, creating deep fissures and smooth rocky ledges along the water's edge. Lake Superior in this area is extremely deep and cold, causing waves to crash directly against the cliffs surrounding the Presque Peninsula. Black Rocks is almost completely exposed to the waters and winds of Lake Superior, so only a few cold-resistant pine species and low shrubs grow across the barren rocky shoreline. Seagulls, bald eagles, and many water birds frequently appear around the high rock outcrops. Beneath the deep, cold waters lies the habitat of many freshwater fish species adapted to low temperatures year-round. Black Rocks is also famous as Michigan's iconic cliff-jumping destination during summer. However, the powerful currents and cold temperatures of Lake Superior make this area dangerous even under stable weather conditions. The combination of ancient volcanic rock, massive waves, and lake water stretching like an ocean creates the uniquely striking beauty of Black Rocks. Pukaskwa National Park is located along the northern shore of Lake Superior in Ontario, Canada, protecting a vast wilderness area covering approximately 725 square miles. The terrain here is characterized by ancient granite cliffs belonging to the Canadian Shield, formed billions of years ago and rising directly beside the water's edge. The cold lakeside environment year-round continuously faces powerful waves from the largest freshwater lake on Earth. The pristine taiga forest ecosystem covers most of the park, with vegetation specially adapted to harsh cold conditions. The dominance of black spruce, tamarack pines, and white birch creates a dense canopy sheltering ground covered in mosses and lichens. The severe climate and nutrient-poor soils cause vegetation in Pukaskwa to grow slowly while maintaining an extremely resilient structure. This is one of the last wild ecological corridors still supporting migrating southern woodland caribou populations. Exposed rocky shores along the lake and deep within the valleys serve as natural hunting territories for Canadian lynxes, gray wolves, and black bears. Geographic isolation allows these wild animals to preserve their primitive survival behaviors. The hydrological network inside the national park includes many fast-flowing rivers such as the Pukaskwa River and White River, carving through rocky gorges before emptying into Lake Superior. During spring, melting ice stirs sediment flows and provides nutrients for the natural spawning grounds of lake trout. The continuous circulation of water and climate creates a self-balancing system for this wilderness ecosystem. Neys Provincial Park is located along the windswept northern shore of Lake Superior in Ontario, Canada, protecting a natural ecosystem covering 21.2 square miles. The terrain here is distinguished by ancient syenite and gabbro rock formations more than 1 billion years old, belonging to the Coldwell Alkaline Complex. This rugged lakeshore region constantly faces the force of massive waves, creating elevated cobblestone beaches and fractured landscapes. The vegetation at Neys is heavily influenced by the cold microclimate, maintained by the enormous waters of Lake Superior. Pristine taiga forest structures dominate the landscape with cold-resistant tree species such as jack pine and white spruce. Along the rocky shoreline, plant species normally found only in distant subarctic regions, such as butterworts and alpine primroses, continue growing within narrow rock fissures. This isolated environment supports a highly intact wildlife community. It serves as a rare refuge for migrating southern woodland caribou populations, a native hoofed species that is gradually declining. Dense forest canopies also provide natural hunting grounds for North American black bears, moose, and packs of gray wolves. The lakeside ecological cycle functions as a self-contained system regulated by ultra-clean, deep freshwater sources. The interaction between eastern winds and lake-effect snow during winter continuously reshapes the thin sand dunes. Entire layers of orange lichens attached to ancient rocks absorb natural minerals, sustaining primitive life across this subarctic environment.
La salvaje costa de roca partida se alza imponentemente en el extremo norte del lago Superior, en el estado de Minnesota, Estados Unidos. Este lugar recibe su nombre por sus enormes acantilados que se elevan verticalmente, formados por rocas ígneas de anortosita y diabasa extremadamente duras. El contraste entre las profundas aguas frías y las oscuras formaciones rocosas crea un severo microclima costero. Antiguas erupciones volcánicas ocurridas hace miles de millones de años dejaron una estructura geológica accidentada llena de profundas fallas. Las poderosas olas del lago golpean constantemente la base de los acantilados, triturando restos volcánicos hasta formar playas de guijarros lisos de color gris ceniza. Filtraciones de minerales tiñen las antiguas superficies rocosas con manchas y franjas de color. La supervivencia de la vegetación en esta región es una lucha constante contra las tormentas y el hielo del norte. Resistentes líquenes se adhieren firmemente a las superficies rocosas expuestas, mientras que cedros y abedules blancos doblan sus troncos siguiendo la dirección del viento junto a la bahía. La densa humedad proveniente de la niebla del lago favorece el crecimiento de comunidades de helechos terrestres. La fauna de esta costa rocosa funciona dentro de ciclos aislados de caza y migración. Venados de cola blanca y zorros rojos utilizan frecuentemente la densa vegetación espinosa junto a los acantilados para refugiarse y buscar alimento. Sobre las ventosas cumbres rocosas, los halcones peregrinos aprovechan la amplia visibilidad para capturar peces de agua fría que nadan cerca de la superficie del lago.
Tettegouche State Park stretches along the wild northern shoreline of Lake Superior within the state of Minnesota, United States. This ecological region is famous for its towering sandstone and basalt cliffs standing directly above the water, surrounding an area of more than 14.7 square miles. The rugged lakeshore terrain constantly receives fierce winds carrying freezing moisture from the deep freshwater lake. The geology of Tettegouche reflects a violent volcanic history through formations such as Palisade Head and Shovel Point projecting dramatically into the lake. Thousands of years of hydraulic pressure from massive waves carved the cliffs into hollow stone arches, hidden caves, and smooth dark gray cobblestone beaches. Rough fault lines expose layers of weathered volcanic minerals across the rocky surfaces. The northern vegetation here is strictly layered to survive the harsh lakeside climate. Ancient white pine forests, cedars, and sugar maples cover the hilltops, creating striking seasonal color contrasts. Along the steep rocky shoreline, mosses, cold-resistant lichens, and ferns cling tightly to narrow cracks in order to absorb the dense lake fog. This isolated environment serves as rich habitat for many North American wildlife species. Dense forest pathways provide shelter for moose, black bears, and large woodpeckers. The Baptism River cuts through the park, descending over powerful waterfalls before flowing into Lake Superior, creating natural migration routes and spawning grounds for rainbow trout. Grand Portage National Park is located at the extreme northeastern corner of the state of Minnesota, United States, directly along the natural border between the United States and Canada. The ecological centerpiece of the entire region is concentrated around the lower Pigeon River, where the water plunges dramatically over high falls, dropping 121 feet before flowing toward Lake Superior. The river basin is carved through a deep gorge exposing ancient layers of shale and greywacke belonging to the old Rove Formation. The enormous water flow, estimated at 12,000 liters per second, continuously crashes against resistant diabase rock formations, generating thick, moisture-filled mist across the valley. The vegetation here is divided between highly productive mixed forests and subarctic northern forests. The lowlands near the river are dominated by northern cedar, paper birch, and black ash trees. Higher along the steep slopes, black spruce and white pine forests form strong wind-resistant canopies. The wildlife community functions in relative isolation because of the rugged terrain, highlighted by the presence of North American moose and porcupines. Beneath the dense wilderness undergrowth, Canadian lynxes, timber wolves, and martens maintain natural hunting cycles. During spring, the Pigeon River becomes an important spawning ground for walleye fish. The gigantic cliffs of Palisade Head rise more than 328 feet vertically above the waters of Lake Superior, creating one of the highest and most spectacular viewpoints along the wild North Shore coastline in the state of Minnesota, United States. This towering rock formation serves as a natural barrier directly exposed to fierce winds and storms throughout the year. This massive cliff wall was formed from a rhyolite lava flow dating back 1.1 billion years. The slow cooling process of the volcanic magma sculpted, sharp column-like rock structures with extremely hard composition and high resistance to erosion. Throughout the Ice Age, violent lake waves continuously carved deeply into the cliff base. The vegetation surviving atop the cliffs stands as proof of resilience within the harsh subarctic environment. Orange lichens and mosses cling tightly to the exposed rock surfaces under constant wind and sunlight, gradually building organic soil over centuries. Within fragile cracks, wild blueberry bushes manage to survive. Wildlife in this area functions within an isolated environment, taking advantage of the fractured terrain for nesting and natural hunting. This is an important nesting region for rare peregrine falcons, which use the high rock ledges as launching platforms to dive toward prey. The deep waters below serve as migration habitat for schools of deep water lake trout. 。 Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore stretches along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan in the state of Michigan, United States, and is famous for its enormous sand dunes rising beside the water's edge. This wild ecosystem includes massive shifting sand formations resting atop sandstone cliffs, crystal-clear inland lakes, and dense old-growth forests. The landscape here is defined by gigantic perched dunes, continuously shaped and reshaped over thousands of years by wind and lake waves. Fine quartz sand constantly shifts under the influence of the temperate climate, creating soft geological curves that are always changing. Strong coastal winds continuously restructure the untouched lakeshore terrain. The movement of sand creates the unique phenomenon known as ghost forests, where ancient cedar tree trunks were buried beneath sand for centuries before re-emerging dry and exposed beneath the sun and wind. Succulent plants and hardy eastern grasses cling to the barren, sandy edges, searching for underground water sources. Resilient black oak vegetation forms a natural barrier stabilizing the shifting sands. This smooth, sandy shoreline is one of the final strictly protected wild habitats of the endangered piping plover. These birds use small, sandy depressions near the lake, as natural nesting grounds during breeding season. Beneath the calm inland waters of lakes such as Glen Lake, marsh turtles and aquatic rodents maintain isolated life cycles. The towering sand cliffs of Tower Hill rise nearly 262 feet above the water's edge, forming one of the most distinctive geological landmarks of Warren Dunes State Park along the windswept southwestern shore of Lake Michigan, United States. This wild ecological region, covering nearly 3.1 square miles, is constantly reshaped by powerful temperate storms blowing directly from the lake. Winter here brings the formation of unique sand-ice structures, as frozen lake waves bind tightly with fine quartz sand to create natural barriers against shoreline erosion. When spring arrives, melting ice activates underground clay springs, leaking from beneath the dunes, continuously supplying minerals to the shallow bays. The rich wild oak forests and ancient cottonwood trees behind the dunes thrive because of these nutrient-rich groundwater systems. Succulent plants and native marram grasses possess interrupted growth cycles, anchoring deep roots into the heated sand to stabilize the young slopes against constant movement. This lakeside ecological corridor serves as one of the most important navigational pathways for the migration of more than 350 continental bird species. The relentless interaction between shifting sands, flowing freshwater systems, and cold, windy climates has created a natural environment with extraordinary self-balancing and adaptive power. The Silver Lake Sand Dunes are located within Silver Lake State Park in western Michigan, United States, protecting a coastal desert region covering more than 4.6 square miles. This landmark was named for its enormous perched dune formation stretching between Lake Michigan and the inland waters of Silver Lake, two bodies of water with completely contrasting hydrological characteristics. This is the only location east of the Mississippi River where visitors are permitted to drive personal off-road vehicles directly across the shifting sand dunes, creating an extremely popular adventure destination, attracting more than 1 million visitors each year. Pressure from vehicle tires, combined with strong western winds, continuously reshapes the rolling dune peaks. The survival of vegetation here is intense, as jack pine forests and cottonwood trees are repeatedly buried and later exposed by the migrating dunes over many decades. Communities of drought-resistant mosses and wild marram grasses develop specialized knotted root systems to retain moisture while anchoring themselves along the dry, windy sand ridges. The constant movement of the sand formations creates unique microclimates along the Great Lakes system, shaping a sensitive ecological stopover for migratory water birds. The circulation cycle of temperate winds and the natural deposition of minerals beneath the sand play a central role in sustaining the isolated life systems of this unusual desert landscape. Hidden on the Door Peninsula in the state of Wisconsin, United States Cave Point County Park is one of the most photographed natural wonders in the Midwest. The park is famous for its ancient dolomite limestone cliffs carved by lake waves into spectacular underwater caves along the wild shores of Lake Michigan, constantly exposed to fierce storms and powerful winds. The unique feature of this 19-acre park is its dramatic seasonal transformation. From crystal-clear turquoise waters resembling tropical coastlines during summer to gigantic ice formations covering the cliffs during winter, thousands of years of hydraulic force from massive waves continuously crash against and erode the exposed rock formations. The survival of vegetation here is extremely difficult across the steep barren karst landscape. Ancient northern cedar trees extend enormous root systems deep into fragile rock fissures to absorb nutrients and resist the violent coastal storms. Dark lichen formations cover much of the vertical cliff surfaces. This coastal ecological corridor supports a completely natural and isolated wildlife community. Submerged rock cavities along the shoreline provide ideal shelter and feeding grounds for many cold water fish species beneath the deep lake waters. Preserving this unique cliff system plays a critical role in protecting the Great Lakes watershed. Whitefish Dunes State Park stands prominently along the shores of Lake Michigan in the state of Wisconsin, United States, containing the tallest dune system in the region. Across this untouched coastal wilderness, covering more than 1.3 square miles, steep, sandy ridges continuously shift under the pressure of harsh continental weather. The entire landscape remains directly exposed to fierce winds blowing inland from the open lake. Behind the barren appearance of this coastal desert lies an extraordinary struggle for survival among rare plant species. Pitcher's thistle, an extremely rare flowering plant, survives exclusively upon these unstable sandy slopes. Its resilient root systems weave tightly beneath the surface, silently stabilizing the fine quartz dunes against the powerful lake winds. Beyond the unstable sand ridges, a completely different world emerges with dense forests of white pine and black oak. This ancient woodland acts as a resilient green barrier, preventing the advancing dunes from spreading farther inland. The shelter provided by the forest canopy creates a peaceful refuge for many wildlife species. This untouched lakeshore also serves as a critical resting stop for thousands of migratory waterbirds traveling across the continent. The unique interaction between lake winds, shifting sands, and ancient forests creates an environment capable of maintaining strong ecological balance. Preserving this region remains essential for protecting the geological integrity of the Great Lakes watershed. Located in the southwestern corner of the state of Michigan, United States, Grand Mere State Park protects a remarkably unique geological formation. Unlike ordinary wild shorelines, this coastal region, covering nearly 1.5 square miles, contains 3 inland lakes positioned parallel to one another, completely sheltered behind large sand dunes from the violent forces of Lake Michigan. The geology here serves as a living natural laboratory, demonstrating ecological succession over thousands of years. As ancient dunes shifted across the landscape, they isolated coastal water systems and transformed them into calm, freshwater inland lakes. Strong lake winds continue lifting fine sand into the air, but the movement is interrupted by moist valleys extending deeper inland. The vegetation here forms clear ecological layers ranging from barren sandy beaches to dense, humid, temperate forests. Wild cranberries and water-tolerant shrubs thrive around the edges of the inland lakes, benefiting from rich organic soil deposits. Farther inland stand ancient oak trees, creating broad, shaded forest canopies. The forest structure surrounding these inland dune lakes led to Grand Mere being recognized as a National Natural Landmark of the United States. This location stands as a rare example of a dune ecosystem that has reached an advanced stage of ecological evolution, where dense vegetation has fully stabilized the landscape rather than allowing the sand to continue shifting across the terrain. P.J. Hoffmaster State Park stands prominently along the shores of Lake Michigan in the United States, containing an exceptionally fragmented geological landscape. Across this untouched region, covering more than 1.8 square miles, bare sand slopes continuously shift beneath the pressure of harsh continental weather. The entire area remains directly exposed to strong western winds blowing inland from the open lake. Powerful swirling winds penetrating the fine sand formations have carved numerous bowl-shaped depressions throughout the dunes. This geological phenomenon accidentally created completely isolated microclimates deep within the valleys. Cold, moist air from the lake becomes trapped below, fully preventing the intense heat that dominates the barren desert-like dunes above. The extreme temperature differences between the valley floors and dune summits stimulate the growth of dramatically contrasting vegetation. Moisture-loving ferns thrive directly beside the steep, dry sand walls. Behind these natural barriers, ancient oak communities extend enormous root systems deep into the ground, acting as anchors that stabilize the landscape. The Gillette Nature Center, located within the park, forms an essential part of Hoffmaster's unique significance. This field research facility preserves living evidence of the geological evolution of the Great Lakes region across many centuries. Every shift in airflow and sand movement is analyzed in order to better understand the dynamic forces of nature. Rock Island State Park exists as a lonely outpost off the Door Peninsula in the state of Wisconsin, United States. This island, covering more than 1.4 square miles, completely rejects all motorized transportation. The entire exposed rocky shoreline stands isolated within Lake Michigan, constantly enduring violent storms descending from the windswept skies. Surrounding the island are gray limestone cliffs, remnants of ancient geological fault systems. Thousands of years of hydraulic force from powerful lake waves continuously strike the rocks, carving unstable underwater caves deep into the stone. Smooth cobblestone beaches layer noisily beneath the relentless pressure of erosion. Beyond the cliff edges lies the dark shadow of ancient northern cedar forests hundreds of years old. Their enormous root systems twist tightly through fragile rock fissures to keep the trees standing against severe storms. Beneath the dense forest canopy, rare wild orchid communities bloom quietly within the isolated darkness. Complete isolation transforms the island into a domain ruled by white-tailed deer and nocturnal birds of prey. Dense fog covering the island year-round conceals an ecosystem functioning entirely separate from the human world. This place offers no comfort for recreation, but instead stands as a test of survival, shaped by nature itself. Trapped between two opposing water worlds in western Michigan, United States, Ludington State Park possesses a breathtaking ecological beauty. More than 8.1 square miles of wilderness absorb the roaring waves of Lake Michigan along the western shoreline. Yet directly behind this violent coast, the land embraces a calm inland lake, reflecting like a giant mirror. Sweeping quartz sand ridges along the shoreline form a fragile boundary between life and barren desolation. Powerful continental winds continuously erase all traces across the landscape, pushing shifting dunes deeper into unstable, moist valleys. This constant movement creates hidden marsh ponds filled with rich mineral deposits. Beneath the collapsed sand hollows, contrasting vegetation thrives defiantly against the intense heat above. Tough wild grasses cling tightly to steep dune edges, stabilizing the terrain during violent storms. Deeper inland rises the dark shadow of ancient oak and pine forests hundreds of years old that shield the region from the wind. This protected wetland core has become a peaceful refuge for white-tailed deer and migratory waterbirds. Dense fog covering the landscape year-round helps the wild ecosystem maintain remarkable ecological balance against constant erosion. This land stands as a wild anthem of survival within the Great Lakes watershed. Stretching along the deep blue shoreline of Lake Michigan in the state of Wisconsin, United States, Harrington Beach State Park possesses a breathtaking beauty of isolation and wilderness. This coastal region, covering more than 1.1 square miles, was originally recognized for its white sandy shoreline, extending more than 1 mile, constantly battered by roaring lake waves and fierce, freezing winds. The isolation of this sandy coastline transforms the region into a sanctuary for white-tailed deer and migratory waterbirds. Along the windswept valleys, the cries of nocturnal birds of prey pierce through the silence, creating an atmosphere of raw wilderness. These predators choose dense, water-tolerant shrubs as nesting grounds and hunting territory. Across the barren karst terrain and steep limestone cliffs, ancient northern cedar communities continue anchoring enormous root systems deep into the ground while resisting the brutal frozen winters. Wild moss blankets cling tightly to the exposed rocky edges surrounding a crystal-clear inland freshwater lake. This vegetation is creating a remarkable story of ecological renewal. Dense fog covering the landscape year-round allows this wild ecosystem to maintain extraordinary ecological balance against constant erosion. This location stands as a proud testament to the healing power of nature, where every geological scar is gradually softened by the land itself. Preserving Harrington Beach remains essential for protecting the Great Lakes watershed. Towering limestone cliffs rising above deep blue waters create the unforgettable first impression of Bruce Peninsula National Park. This wilderness park is located on a narrow strip of land separating Georgian Bay from Lake Huron in the province of Ontario, Canada. The region's unique terrain was shaped by the Niagara escarpment, forming a rugged shoreline filled with dramatic geological structures. These cliffs are actually remnants of ancient coral reefs that existed beneath the ocean 400 million years ago. After thousands of years of erosion from lake waves and glaciers, the limestone interior was hollowed into the complex underwater cave system known as the Grotto. Here, powerful waves continuously crash against the stone arches, producing distinctive echoing sounds. The natural environment of the peninsula preserves some of the oldest cedar tree populations in eastern North America, with many trees more than 800 years old, clinging tightly to the cliffs. This unique vegetation supports the rare Massasauga rattlesnake and native black bears. Early summer also brings the blooming of more than 40 species of wild orchids throughout the forest. Visitors planning to explore the grotto must reserve access in advance because hiking capacity is strictly limited to protect the fragile terrain. Caution is necessary while walking because the rocks remain slippery year-round due to heavy moss growth. In addition, water temperatures in Georgian Bay remain extremely cold and can cause sudden cold shock if visitors jump in for unrestricted swimming. A magnificent limestone sea cave concealing surreal turquoise waters is known as the Grotto. This natural wonder lies deep within Bruce Peninsula National Park in the province of Ontario, Canada. Its unique position along the shores of Georgian Bay makes it one of the most spectacular geological highlights of the Niagara Escarpment, featuring hollowed stone formations shaped by erosion. The cave arch formed over millions of years through constant erosion caused by violent lake waves and the retreat of ancient glaciers. When sunlight passes through an underwater tunnel, it reflects against the stone walls and creates an unusual glowing neon-colored light. This natural optical phenomenon makes the cave interior appear like a luminous swimming pool. The area surrounding the cave shelters ancient cedar trees, more than 1,000 years old, their roots anchored deep into barren rock crevices. This fragile ecosystem also supports large hawks that frequently nest upon the cliffs, along with native water snakes hunting along the bay shoreline. Moss-covered vegetation blankets the pathways in deep green tones. Because of its unusual geological structure, the cave interior functions as a natural sound amplifier, where the roaring waves of Lake Huron echo continuously against the stone walls. During winter, visitors can witness a remarkable phenomenon as rising moisture instantly freezes inside the cave, forming gigantic icicles hanging from the ceiling arch. A strangely swollen limestone rock rising directly from crystal-clear waters is known as Turnip Rock. This remarkable natural wonder is located within the ecological thumb region of the state of Michigan, United States. Isolated along the outer shoreline of Port Austin beside Lake Huron, this unique geological structure stands as one of the rarest scenic landmarks in the entire Great Lakes region. the spectacular shape of the rock formed through thousands of years of relentless erosion, caused by the violent waves of Lake Huron striking its base. Over time, the force of the water carved deeply into the lower stone while the harder upper section remained intact, creating the appearance of a gigantic turnip balanced upside down. This inverted structure seems to challenge the natural laws of gravity. Despite the barren conditions and complete isolation by surrounding water, pine trees and vegetation continue growing across the top of the rock throughout the year. This tiny, isolated ecosystem provides safe shelter for native water birds such as gulls and eagles. The root systems anchor deeply into the limestone, helping stabilize the soil above the rock formation. Because the rock lies entirely on private property, visitors are strictly prohibited from climbing onto the shoreline or scaling the fragile limestone structure. The only way to approach and closely observe this natural wonder is by kayaking or paddleboarding approximately 7 miles from Port Austin Harbor during calm lake conditions. A world record for the remarkable phenomenon of a lake within a lake is the defining feature of Manitoulin Island. This untouched landmass is located within Lake Huron in the province of Ontario, Canada. With its enormous size, it is the largest island situated inside a freshwater lake anywhere in the world, possessing a unique geological structure connected to the Niagara escarpment stretching across North America. Geological uplift and the retreat of ancient glaciers more than 1 million years ago gradually softened and reshaped the island's limestone surface. This uneven terrain naturally trapped water, forming more than 100 inland lakes across the island. Among them, Lake Manitou stands as the largest freshwater lake located on an island inside another lake, creating an extraordinary geological phenomenon. The temperate forest ecosystem here contains lush cedar forests and waterlogged peat bog wetlands. This environment supports wildlife including black bears, white-tailed deer, and the rare common loon. Particularly important are the alvar ecosystems, grasslands growing across thin limestone surfaces that shelter many critically endangered native wildflowers. Geographic isolation within the immense lake allows the island to preserve exceptionally dark natural night skies completely free from urban light pollution. During clear winter nights, visitors standing atop the highest limestone ridges can clearly observe the Milky Way and shifting curtains of aurora borealis without the assistance of specialized equipment. A gigantic natural stone arch towering beside the shores of Lake Huron is known as Arch Rock. This remarkable natural wonder stands on the eastern side of Mackinac Island within the Upper Peninsula region of the state of Michigan, United States. This exceptionally rare limestone breccia formation rises about 148 feet above the surrounding landscape and serves as the historic symbol and founding inspiration behind Mackinac Island State Park. The massive arch formed during the post-glacial period thousands of years ago, when lake levels rose dramatically and powerful waves repeatedly struck the cliff face. Over long periods of erosion, softer sediment layers beneath the cliff were gradually washed away, leaving behind a vast opening while the harder upper stone arch remained standing until today. The environment surrounding the arch is covered by dense conifer forests, where cedar and pine trees anchor deep roots into barren rock crevices. This fragile ecosystem supports wildlife, including fox squirrels, bald eagles, and numerous birds of prey that frequently nest along the high cliffs. Moss-covered vegetation blankets the area in deep green colors. The fragile nature of this limestone structure has forced authorities to enforce strict protection measures prohibiting visitors from climbing or approaching too closely to prevent collapse or erosion. The ideal time to view this natural wonder is during early morning, when sunrise light passes through the center of the arch and creates a spectacular optical display. Brilliant white quartz mountain ridges create the unforgettable first impression of Killarney Provincial Park. This wilderness preserve lies along the northern shores of Georgian Bay in the province of Ontario, Canada. The landscape is extraordinarily unique because of the ancient La Cloche mountain range, a white quartz geological formation estimated to be more than 3.5 billion years old. Powerful movement from ancient glaciers during the Ice Age eroded the mountain peaks and exposed massive quartz rock layers beneath the surface. This enormous geological pressure also formed more than 50 crystal-clear inland lakes scattered among the rocky valleys. Because the quartz formations contain almost no calcium, many lakes here possess naturally high acidity levels. This specialized ecosystem is covered by old-growth white pine forests, blueberry wetlands, and wild moss vegetation. The region serves as important hunting territory for large wildlife species, including black bears, moose, and gray wolves. However, due to the highly acidic water conditions, many lakes within the park contain no fish at all. Because the natural environment is strictly protected, the park holds dark sky preserve status designed to eliminate artificial light pollution entirely. During clear autumn nights while paddling across George Lake, the white quartz cliffs act like giant mirrors reflecting the sky, allowing visitors to observe the glowing Milky Way with extraordinary clarity. Canada's first freshwater conservation paradise is known as Fathom 5 National Marine Park. Located at the northern tip of the Bruce Peninsula near the town of Tobermory in Ontario, this national marine preserve, established in 1987, extends across the waters of Georgian Bay within Lake Huron. The protected region includes 20 untouched islands dedicated to preserving aquatic ecosystems and historic lighthouses. This destination is recognized as Canada's freshwater diving capital because of its extraordinary underwater visibility. The crystal-clear lake water allows visitors to see deep beneath the surface throughout the year, revealing a spectacular underwater world. The most remarkable attraction below the lake is a collection of more than 20 ancient shipwrecks preserved in exceptional condition. The park's unique ecosystem represents a meeting point between ancient fossilized coral reefs and submerged limestone caves. The isolated islands provide habitat for native water snakes, marsh turtles, and large populations of aquatic birds. Dense underwater vegetation creates rich moss-covered aquatic forests beneath the lake surface. The fusion of maritime history and transparent waters has transformed the entire preserve into a living museum beneath the Great Lakes. During summer months, sunlight reflecting across shipwrecks, resting dozens of feet underwater, creates surreal bands of contrasting colors, fully connecting human history with untamed wilderness. Water cascading gently like a bridal veil is the defining feature of Bridal Veil Falls. This peaceful freshwater waterfall is located near the village of Kakabeka on Manitoulin Island in the province of Ontario, Canada. The waterfall originates from Lake Kakabeka, flowing into the river of the same name before plunging over a limestone cliff belonging to the Niagara escarpment and descending directly into the waters of the North Channel. The structure of this waterfall, standing about 36 feet high, formed because of differences in hardness between geological layers. A thin but durable limestone layer above extends outward to create a natural overhang, while softer shale beneath has been deeply eroded by the falling water. This contrast created a unique hollow space directly behind the continuous curtain of water. A broad temperate forest surrounds the waterfall basin, together with dense fern growth spreading across the moist rock walls. This environment serves as an important autumn spawning ground for Chinook salmon and rainbow trout swimming upstream from Lake Huron. Vegetation along the shoreline also supports many woodpecker populations and wild squirrels. Mineral deposits accumulating in the water over centuries have stained the rocks beneath the waterfall with a light golden brown color. When winter arrives, the entire flow freezes solid, transforming the waterfall into a gigantic shimmering ice column connecting earth and sky. This natural phenomenon creates a breathtaking ice sculpture standing silently within the forest. Possessing cliffs shaped like the head of a lion when viewed from a distance, this region became known as Lion's Head Provincial Park. This protected area is located in Ontario, Canada, and is famous for its towering limestone cliffs rising approximately 197 feet above the landscape. These sweeping cliffs descend dramatically toward the crystal-clear, turquoise waters of Georgian Bay. The rugged terrain here was sculpted from dolomite limestone formations more than 400 million years old. During the Ice Age, enormous pressure from moving glaciers combined with relentless wave erosion gradually collapsed the softer cliff sections, leaving behind jagged stone pillars and deep cave systems hidden beneath the ground. Ancient cedar forests more than 1,000 years old cling tightly to barren cracks along the cliff edges. This untouched wilderness provides shelter for the rare Massasauga rattlesnake, North American black bears, and peregrine falcons hunting along the bay shoreline. The vegetation here also includes several species of rare orchids. The striking contrast between the ancient gray limestone cliffs and the turquoise lake water creates an extraordinary natural panorama. When autumn storms sweep across the bay, enormous waves crash violently against the cliff bases, launching white spray dozens of feet into the air. This process leaves behind shimmering mineral streaks sparkling across the rock surfaces. A chain of 36 small islands hidden along the southern shoreline of the Upper Peninsula is known as the Lakeshore Islands. This untouched archipelago lies within the waters of Lake Huron in the state of Michigan, United States. The name originates from French, meaning the channels, accurately reflecting the intricate geological structure formed by interconnected inland waterways. The island network functions as a massive natural breakwater system, protecting the coastline from the violent waves of Lake Huron. This protection unintentionally created small bays, narrow passages, and channels with water surfaces calm as glass. Over thousands of years, these gentle currents deposited rich sediment across shallow wetland regions. Dense conifer forests cover the islands with thriving cedar and white pine populations. The shallow, warmer waters surrounding the islands provide ideal spawning habitat for largemouth bass, salmon, and lake tuna. The region also serves as a critical resting point for thousands of migratory birds traveling along the Mississippi Flyway. Because of these calm and sheltered waterways, the area became the birthplace of traditional handcrafted wooden boat culture for more than a century. During summer months, the smooth, shimmering lake reflects the silhouettes of antique wooden boats gliding quietly across the water, creating a nostalgic atmosphere that perfectly connects historical heritage with nature. One of the most iconic hiking routes in the province of Ontario is known as the Cup and Saucer Trail. This unique trail is located entirely on Manitoulin Island, the world's largest island situated within a freshwater lake. The challenging journey guides visitors through dense forests before reaching the summit of the majestic Niagara Escarpment, an ancient geological formation. The landscape here was shaped hundreds of millions of years ago through the collapse and shifting of hard dolomite limestone layers. Erosion caused by retreating glaciers carved away softer sedimentary rock, creating towering limestone cliffs rising nearly 230 feet high. From these windswept heights, visitors gain expansive panoramic views overlooking the vast waters of West Bay. Vegetation along the trail consists of mixed forests containing white pines, ancient cedars, and maple trees. This humid wilderness environment supports wildlife populations including white-tailed deer, wild squirrels, and peregrine falcons frequently soaring beside the cliffs. The thin limestone soil also sustains many species of wild mosses, The random arrangement of rugged rock formations has naturally transformed the cliff tops into perfect observation platforms overlooking the deep blue freshwater lakes below. During windy autumn days, when the forest canopy changes into brilliant shades of red and gold, the dramatic contrast against the blue bay creates an overwhelming panoramic landscape. A sharply pointed strip of land extending directly into Lake Erie is known as Point Pelee National Park. This unique ecological park is located at the southernmost point of the province of Ontario, Canada. Because of its extraordinary geographical position, it represents the southernmost mainland point of all Canada and contains an extensive system of freshwater marshes and sand dunes. The landform developed through the continuous accumulation of sand and sediment deposited by currents moving through Lake Erie over thousands of years. Over time, this process formed a narrow peninsula extending more than 9 miles into the lake. Constant fluctuations in lake levels continue reshaping the outline of the sandy point. The natural environment here represents one of the most biologically diverse regions in Canada, with vast wetlands covering much of the landscape. The park serves as a critical resting point for millions of monarch butterflies and hundreds of migratory bird species traveling across North America every spring. Vegetation includes Carolinian forests containing many exceptionally rare deciduous tree species. The convergence of these natural migration routes has transformed this southernmost landform into a vibrant biological observation point within the Great Lakes region. During fog-covered days, the sharp sandy point appears to dissolve into the endless waters of the lake, creating a dreamlike boundary where nature quietly maintains its own balance. Presque Isle State Park possesses a unique sandy peninsula that gradually moves about 75 feet eastward each year because of the constant force of lake waves. This curved landform belongs to the city of Erie in the state of Pennsylvania, United States. Extending outward into the vast waters of Lake Erie, the sandy strip forms a natural breakwater, completely sheltering Presque Isle Bay behind it. Human engineering was forced to intervene by constructing 58 offshore stone breakwaters to slow the drifting movement of the peninsula. Over decades, the interaction between natural currents and these artificial structures created a chain of 13 fine sandy beaches interwoven with shallow mineral-rich lagoons and wetlands. plant communities here represent a complete sequence of ecological evolution, ranging from pioneer grasses surviving on scorching sand to hardwood forests hundreds of years old, deeper inland. The region serves as a critical outpost for more than 300 migratory bird species, especially wild sandpipers frequently using the marshes as feeding grounds. The struggle for control of the Great Lakes during the War of 1812 once transformed this area into a naval shipbuilding base for Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry's fleet. Today, old military remains rest beneath the harbor waters. The only surviving landmark is the brick lighthouse built in 1872, still shining every night to guide passing ships safely through the lake. Glacial Grooves State Memorial preserves the largest glacial grooves on Earth still visible today. This priceless geological landmark is located on Kelly's Island within Lake Erie in the state of Ohio, United States. The enormous limestone trench stretches approximately 394 feet long, 36 feet wide, and nearly 16 feet deep, revealing a vivid chapter of Earth's geological history. This spectacular erosion feature formed around 18,000 years ago through the movement of the massive Wisconsin ice sheet. As the ice, thousands of feet thick, moved across the region, immense gravitational pressure combined with granite rocks and diamonds dragged beneath the glacier, carved deeply into the softer Columbus limestone bedrock, creating the enormous grooves. Within the damp limestone crevices of the grooves grow many species of wild mosses and ancient cold-resistant ferns. The ecosystem surrounding the memorial is enclosed by a small temperate broadleaf forest, where fox squirrels and native woodpeckers frequently nest. The limestone soil also supports wild orchids. The discovery of these grooves during commercial quarry operations in the 19th century helped scientists prove the theory of a global ice age. During winter, snow crystals settle along the curved rock surfaces, highlighting the ancient mechanical scratches and allowing visitors to vividly imagine the destructive force of prehistoric nature. Crystal Cave reveals a spectacular underground world containing the largest celestite crystal geode ever discovered on Earth. This one-of-a-kind cavern lies approximately 33 feet beneath the ground, near the town of Put-in-Bay on South Bass Island, in the state of Ohio, United States. The entire chamber is actually an enormous air pocket surrounded by mineral-rich rock walls filled with valuable crystal formations. The history of this landmark began in 1897, when well diggers accidentally drilled through the cave ceiling. Instead of mining the strontium deposits for commercial fireworks production, the Heinemann family decided to preserve the site for tourism. This bold decision indirectly saved the winery above the cave from financial collapse during the Prohibition era. The cave interior is completely covered with sharp, pale blue and milky white celestite crystal walls. These giant prism-shaped structures range from approximately 8 to 18 inches in length and grow densely together, creating a jagged, crystalline architecture. The cave's high humidity also supports ancient bacterial colonies surviving through mineral-based ecosystems. Maintaining a constant year-round temperature of 52 degrees Fahrenheit protects the delicate strontium sulfate crystal structures from cracking or fracturing. When artificial lighting shines across the cave walls, millions of crystal surfaces reflect simultaneously, producing a surreal display of refracted light that transforms this cavern into one of the greatest geological treasures of the Lake Erie region. Stretching into Lake Erie like a gigantic sandy arm, Long Point Provincial Park was established in 1921 and remains one of the oldest provincial parks in Ontario, Canada. The park is located at the base of Long Point, a 25-mile sand formation created by the second-largest depositional process in the entire Great Lakes region and officially recognized by UNESCO as a World Biosphere Reserve. This sandy formation continues evolving and expanding because of sediment accumulation carried by currents flowing along the shores of Lake Erie over thousands of years. Over time, natural deposition created a complex maze of shifting dunes, untouched inland lakes, and sheltered shallow bays. Constant fluctuations in lake levels continue reshaping the peninsula. This extremely valuable wetland and dune ecosystem serves as a vital biological outpost, located directly along the migration route of millions of aquatic birds and monarch butterflies across North America. Vegetation ranges from drought-resistant coastal grasslands to humid swamp forests. The region also supports the largest turtle population in the entire province. The isolation of the sandy peninsula transformed the entire region into a pristine conservation sanctuary far removed from urban development. During migration seasons, the skies become filled with enormous flocks of birds searching for shelter. The calls of countless species blending with the waves of Lake Erie create one of the most distinctive wilderness symphonies in the region. Niagara Falls roars along the border between Canada and the United States, carrying an enormous water volume exceeding 5.9 million cubic feet, plunging every minute during peak flow periods. This massive waterfall system lies along the Niagara River, connecting the province of Ontario and the state of New York. The natural wonder actually consists of 3 separate waterfalls: Horseshoe Falls, American Falls, and Bridal Veil Falls. The tremendous kinetic energy of the rushing water originates from the sudden elevation difference between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Over more than 12,000 years, relentless hydraulic pressure from the powerful currents continuously carved and eroded the softer Lockport limestone, forcing the waterfall cliffs to retreat southward upstream at an average rate of approximately 3 feet each year. Water plunging from heights exceeding 164 feet creates permanent clouds of mist that nourish a unique humid forest ecosystem deep within the gorge. This remarkable environment provides shelter for more than 19 species of river fish, adapted to powerful currents as well as large populations of birds of prey. The constant moisture also encourages dense moss growth throughout the canyon walls. This immense natural force was successfully harnessed by humans beginning in 1895 through the world's first large-scale alternating current hydroelectric plant designed by Nikola Tesla. Today, an enormous concrete tunnel system extending hundreds of feet deep into the gray rock cliffs allows visitors to approach directly behind the raging curtain of water and physically feel the vibrations generated by the immense waterfall. Chimney Bluff State Park features jagged clay towers rising dramatically above the southern shoreline of the vast waters of Lake Ontario. This unusual geological park is located near the town of Huron in Wayne County, New York, United States. These sharp cliff formations resembling gigantic chimneys create one of the most unique coastal landscapes along the lake. The spectacular terrain here is actually a massive drumlin, a hill formed from layers of sediment, sand, and gravel deposited by glaciers tens of thousands of years ago. When the Ice Age ended, powerful lake waves combined with strong winds and persistent rainfall continuously carved and eroded the soft earth formation. This relentless erosion gradually sharpened the towering cliffs into dramatic spires. The constant collapse of the clay cliffs creates ideal habitat for bank swallows, which dig thousands of nesting tunnels into the fragile sandy walls. Above the cliff tops, birds of prey, including ospreys and bald eagles, frequently use lake winds to hunt for food. Oak forests farther inland provide territory for white-tailed deer and red foxes. Because these towering formations consist entirely of fragile clay and loose sand, they constantly collapse and change shape after major storms. During late afternoons, sunlight strikes directly into the deep ridges, illuminating the warm, golden-orange tones of the gravelly earth in dramatic contrast with the blue lake waters, revealing the raw beauty of the wilderness. Scarborough Bluffs once formed the original shoreline of the ancient glacial Lake Iroquois, before the massive ice sheets retreated and reshaped the modern Great Lakes. This geological wonder rises along the eastern outskirts of Toronto, Canada. The enormous earth wall consists of 11 separate lakeside parks stretching continuously from the western entrance at Bluffers Park. The exposed geological layers within the cliffs contain 5 separate sediment formations representing different stages of advancing and retreating glaciers. The first European settlers arriving in 1793 compared these towering gray bluffs to the white limestone cliffs of Scarborough in England. That nostalgic comparison eventually became the official name for the entire region. The ecosystem here faces heavy pressure from urban development, yet still maintains migration routes for American kestrels and red-tailed hawks. The dry cliff slopes provide rare habitat for goat's beard grass and drought-resistant sumac shrubs. Waters beside the cliff bases were later modified into artificial rocky habitats supporting salmon populations. To prevent catastrophic landslides from swallowing multi-million-dollar homes built along the cliff edges, a massive engineering effort lasting decades was undertaken. Humans gradually reduced the steepness of unstable slopes while constructing submerged rock barriers to weaken wave impact. These interventions unintentionally transformed the base of the cliffs into a heavily reinforced artificial shoreline. Thousand Islands is a massive archipelago consisting of exactly 1,864 islands scattered across the international border between Canada and the United States. This freshwater frontier extends approximately 50 miles along the St. Lawrence River, beginning at the outlet of Lake Ontario. To officially qualify as an island, each rocky formation must remain above water year-round and support at least 2 living trees. The structural foundation of the entire archipelago is formed from ancient granite bedrock belonging to the Frontenac Arch, a geological extension of the Canadian Shield. Tens of thousands of years ago, the violent mechanical movement of Ice Age glaciers polished and carved the tops of these submerged mountain ridges. When the glaciers melted, rising St. Lawrence waters flooded the surrounding valleys. The ecosystem here functions as a crucial biological migration corridor connecting northern forests with the Appalachian Mountains. Fast-moving waters surrounding the rocky islands provide ideal hunting grounds for black bass, lake trout, and native turtles. White pine groves and ancient oak forests across the islands also shelter bald eagles. The region once served as a fierce naval battleground during the War of 1812 between Britain and the United States before later becoming a luxurious retreat for wealthy elites during the 19th century. Many islands became home to grand European-style castles, most famously Bold Castle on Hart Island. This remarkable architectural heritage remains isolated among the endless waters of the river. Iguassabon Falls and Gorge is located along the shores of Lake Superior in the province of Ontario, where the Iguassabon River suddenly plunges into a narrow, rocky gorge before flowing into the vast waters of the northern Great Lakes. This waterfall, nearly 98 feet high, creates a dramatic landscape among the dark, ancient rock formations of the Canadian Shield, where water and stone have collided for millions of years. Unlike many broad and wide waterfalls, Iguassabon Falls is compressed tightly between steep cliffs, causing the rushing water to generate immense pressure as it crashes downward. Massive white torrents continuously strike the deep rock basin below, producing dense mist and echoing sounds throughout the narrow gorge. After descending the falls, the river continues swirling violently through rocky crevices before flowing directly into the icy waters of Lake Superior. Most of the gorge surrounding the waterfall was formed from ancient rock layers billions of years old, deeply carved over time by glaciers and river erosion. The dark cliffs surrounding the falls remain nearly barren because of the constant impact from water and the cold winds of Lake Superior. Some sections of the narrow gorge compress the river so intensely that deep whirlpools and extremely fast currents form beneath the waterfall. Iguassabon Falls and Gorge is not famous for enormous size, but for the violent force of water cutting through sharply fractured rocky terrain. The white waterfall, dark gorge, and distant icy waters of Lake Superior create a harsh beauty that is highly characteristic of northern Ontario. Trains passing through the northern forests of Ontario often disappear between the deep cliffs of Agawa before reappearing near Lake Superior. This canyon lies within the ancient geological region of the Canadian Shield, where the Agawa River has carved through massive granite formations for millions of years. The rugged terrain and dense northern forests make this area one of the most remarkable wilderness regions in Canada. Along the canyon, sheer cliffs rising more than 328 feet surround the fast-flowing cold river below. Many large waterfalls plunge from rocky crevices into the canyon floor, most notably Bridal Veil Falls, with waters dropping nearly 131 feet. Over long periods of time, water and glaciers eroded the terrain, creating deep fissures and layered rock formations characteristic of northern Ontario. The boreal forest surrounding Agawa stretches across rocky slopes and damp riverside lands with red pines, firs, cedars, and birches growing densely together. Moose, black bears, and Canadian lynxes inhabit forests that remain largely isolated from modern urban areas. Bald eagles frequently appear above the high cliffs, while the cold, oxygen-rich waters below support many freshwater fish species native to Lake Superior. Unlike many open landscapes around the Great Lakes, Agawa carries a deep, narrow, and isolated atmosphere within the ancient northern rocky terrain. The dark granite cliffs, cold river, and waterfalls hidden within the old forests have created a uniquely powerful landscape here. Agawa is still considered one of the most impressive natural regions in the province of Ontario. Lake Superior Provincial Park is located in the Algoma region of northwestern Ontario, Canada. Covering an area of approximately 598 square miles, stretching along the northeastern shore of Lake Superior, the largest freshwater lake in the world, this park features towering granite cliffs, smooth white sandy beaches, and vibrant northern forests. The landscape here is deeply fragmented by eroded sandstone formations and the massive fault structure of Agawa Canyon. Hydraulic forces from enormous waves continuously crash against the shoreline, carving water caves and unique natural stone arches along the edge of the lake. The deep waters maintain cold temperatures year-round, creating dense fog banks that blanket the ancient geological landscape. The park's boreal forest ecosystem represents a clearly layered biological transition zone between coniferous and broadleaf tree species. The wilderness forests are dominated by North American white pines, sugar maples, and eastern hemlocks, forming dense multi-layered vegetation. Across the damp forest floor, communities of mosses, ferns, and wild orchids thrive because of the constant moisture. This protected core region supports a diverse wildlife community with completely wild survival behaviors. It serves as habitat for North American moose, black bears, and gray wolves hidden beneath dense forest canopies. Internal river systems such as the Sand River and Frater River provide rich natural spawning grounds for migratory salmon species.
Hombre por su majestuosa apariencia similar a una antigua fortaleza. La enorme masa de arenisca soporta constantemente la intensa presión de los fríos vientos continentales. Esta singular formación está compuesta por capas de arenisca munising con cientos de millones de años de antigüedad. Durante miles de años, las olas del lago erosionaron la estructura rocosa, tallando curvas onduladas y cavidades naturales a lo largo de la orilla. Las filtraciones de agua subterránea cargadas de minerales como óxido de hierro y manganeso crearon vibrantes franjas de colores sobre los acantilados. La vegetación que rodea la formación rocosa refleja las características de los bosques mixtos del norte con sistemas biológicos altamente adaptados. Resistentes pinos blancos y cedros hunden profundamente sus raíces en las frágiles grietas de la arenisca para soportar las violentas tormentas. Bajo los húmedos acantilados existe un mundo salvaje de musgos, líquenes y helechos que prosperan durante todo el año. Las cristalinas aguas que rodean la formación rocosa poseen una extraordinaria visibilidad submarina y sirven como hábitat ideal para numerosas especies de peces de agua fría. Bancos de truchas de lago y truchas arcoíris se desplazan frecuentemente cerca de la base de los acantilados en busca de abundantes fuentes de alimento. El continuo ciclo de colapso y erosión de las capas de arenisca sigue remodelando el entorno ecológico del fondo del lago.
The ancient sandstone formation Chapel Rock is located within Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, United States. This Cambrian natural structure was sculpted by the massive waves of ancient Lake Nipissing around 3,800 years ago. Its position along the shores of Lake Superior causes this wild rocky formation to constantly endure powerful cold storms. A natural stone arch once connected the structure to the mainland, giving it the appearance of a church arch and inspiring the name Chapel Rock. However, the connecting stone arch completely collapsed during the 1940s under the powerful effects of natural weathering. The collapse left behind a solitary sandstone pillar standing beside the lake. The most remarkable ecological symbol of this landmark is a white pine tree approximately 250 years old, growing strongly atop the isolated rock formation. Because there is no soil source on the rock itself, the tree extends enormous roots more than 10 feet across open space to reach the mainland for nutrients. The surrounding vegetation depends entirely on moisture from the environment. The crystal-clear waters surrounding the rock base reveal deep underwater visibility and support a highly diverse cold-water aquatic ecosystem. The sandstone formation serves as a natural shelter and feeding ground for schools of lake trout and wild bass because of its abundant underwater cavities. Large birds of prey also use the rock summit as an observation point. Indiana Dunes National Park stretches along the rugged southern shoreline of Lake Michigan in the state of Indiana, United States, protecting more than 23.2 square miles of wetlands and sand dunes. This ecological region features famous shifting dunes, such as Mount Baldy rising directly against the wind and waves. The interior landscape forms a complex mosaic of wild marshes, colorful prairies, and transitional forest zones. The geology here preserves remnants of the melting ice age approximately 18,000 years ago, shaping the rolling dune formations. Strong lake winds continuously push fine quartz sand farther inland at rates exceeding 3 feet per year. Moist interdunal valleys between the sand ridges form isolated wetland pond systems known as the Great Marsh. The vegetation within this protected region is exceptionally diverse because it lies at the intersection of multiple continental climate zones. Marram grass spreads its roots across young dunes to stabilize the sand, creating conditions that allow northern jack pine trees to survive at the southernmost limit of their range. Deeper inland, ancient open black oak forests sustain themselves through natural wildfire cycles. Indiana Dunes is one of the greatest biodiversity refuges in North America, preserving intact natural evolutionary cycles. The blending of desert-like sands, wetlands, and ancient oak forests creates an invaluable and highly sensitive ecological network. Protecting this wild lakeshore region plays a critical role in preserving the entire Great Lakes habitat system. Located beside the white waves of Lake Michigan in the state of Wisconsin, United States, Kohler Andrae State Park contains one of the most sensitive lakeside dune systems in North America. The defining feature of this coastal region, covering more than 1.5 square miles, is the sharp contrast between constantly shifting quartz sand dunes and isolated acidic wetlands within the interior. The geology here operates through a complex cycle of erosion and deposition under the hydraulic pressure of the lake. Temperate winds continuously push fine sand grains across the landscape, creating rolling ripple formations that constantly reshape the shoreline. Depressed valleys between the dune ridges form temporary ponds and wetland pools. Elevated winding boardwalk systems were constructed as a unique ecological solution to prevent human foot traffic from collapsing the fragile dune structures. This protection allows wild marram grass to weave massive underground root systems that stabilize the sandy slopes. Creeping juniper communities survive close to the shifting sand surface. This region serves as a critical shelter corridor for more than 400 migratory bird species along major continental flyways. The continuous cycle of dense fog and natural mineral deposition allows the environment to maintain remarkable ecological balance. Protecting this untouched shoreline remains essential for the entire Great Lakes watershed. Isolated along the shores of Lake Michigan in the United States, Saugatuck Dunes State Park rejects all intrusion from motorized roads. To reach this coastal wilderness covering more than 1.5 square miles, visitors must undertake exhausting hikes through dense, untamed forests. The reward at the end of the journey is a series of bare sand cliffs rising more than 197 feet above the windy lakeshore. Buried beneath these gigantic dunes lies the grave of Singapore, a once thriving 19th century port town. Excessive logging operations destroyed the protective vegetation, causing the lake winds to unleash a slow but unstoppable sandstorm. Entire rows of homes and sawmills were eventually swallowed completely beneath the advancing dunes. Today, the steep dunes of Saugatuck Dunes continue migrating eastward year after year under the pressure of temperate winds. Nature's current struggle belongs to wild white pines and black oaks clinging to the forest edge. These trees must continuously grow upward to avoid being buried alive by the shifting dunes, just as the old town once was. The harsh landscape here transforms the shoreline into a valuable natural climate observation site for the Great Lakes region. Saugatuck Dunes does not welcome travelers seeking comfortable recreation, but instead attracts those wishing to witness the absolute assimilating power of coastal desert landscapes. Every artificial trace here is eventually erased without mercy. Peninsula State Park rises prominently above the waters of Door County in the state of Wisconsin, United States, protecting a rugged coastal ecosystem covering more than 5.8 square miles. This landmark was named for its unusual faulted terrain featuring enormous vertical gray limestone cliffs. The entire region constantly endures powerful winds blowing across Green Bay. The Dolomite limestone cliffs here form part of the ancient Niagara escarpment, created hundreds of millions of years ago through complex geological processes. Violent waves continuously strike the cliff bases, carving unstable underground cavities into the rock. Long fractures along the exposed slopes are constantly eroded through cycles of freezing and thawing. The survival of vegetation in this region challenges every natural rule of existence across the barren karst terrain. Ancient northern cedar trees, hundreds of years old, extend enormous root systems tightly into narrow rock fissures to remain standing against severe storms. Layers of wild lichens and mosses cover the edges of the steep cliffs. The solid stone Eagle Bluff Lighthouse, constructed during the 19th century and positioned directly beside the cliffs, stands as Peninsula's historical symbol. This structure has witnessed centuries of changing lake currents and dense coastal fog surrounding the Great Lakes region. Preserving this unique shoreline remains essential for maintaining the integrity of the geological landscape. Newport State Park is a wilderness park covering 3.7 square miles located at the northeastern tip of the Door Peninsula in the state of Wisconsin, United States. Featuring more than 11 miles of rugged rocky shoreline along the wild waters of Lake Michigan, this protected region forms a unique ecological transition between untouched deciduous forests and lakeside sand dunes, creating highly complex terrain. This land was originally the logging town of Newport, established in 1882, but it was completely abandoned during the early 20th century after timber resources were exhausted. The collapse of the logging industry allowed natural vegetation to recover rapidly, transforming old ruined docks into historic trails deeply covered with moss within the dense forest. The ecosystem here contains ancient pine forests, rich wetlands, and diverse vegetation, including many species of wild orchids growing near the lake. This region serves as important habitat for wildlife such as white-tailed deer, red foxes, and more than 200 migratory bird species, including rare bald eagles frequently hunting along the rocky cliff shoreline. To fully experience the park, visitors should prepare red light flashlights to preserve night vision, while participating in isolated camping across 17 wilderness campsites along the lakeshore. The park remains open year-round, but winter brings severe challenges with freezing winds from Lake Michigan and deep snow covering 26 miles of trails, demanding strong survival skills. Leelanau State Park is a natural preserve covering 2.1 square miles, located at the northern tip of the Leelanau Peninsula in the state of Michigan, United States. The park contains more than 8.5 miles of shoreline, bordering the wild waters of Lake Michigan, playing an important role in protecting coastal sand dunes and old-growth deciduous forests, characteristic of North America's coastal ecosystems. The historical centerpiece attracting visitors is the Grand Traverse Lighthouse, constructed in 1852 to guide ships through the dangerous straits. After surviving more than a century of severe storms, the structure now serves as a maritime museum, preserving memories and artifacts from devastating shipwrecks throughout the region. The park's wilderness environment combines ancient pine forests, cedar swamps, and habitat for the endangered golden-winged warbler. Vegetation thrives across the sandy terrain, creating ideal hunting grounds for hawks and small mammals while preserving many rare native wildflowers. Visitors commonly search for Petoskey stones, a unique type of 350 million-year-old fossilized coral hidden among the rocky lakeshore beaches. The ideal time to visit is during late summer when lake waters are calmer, but visitors should remain cautious because underwater currents around the peninsula are extremely dangerous and unsuitable for unrestricted swimming.